What up? It's another video from Efi's voice. And here it goes. The title of this video is gonna be something like "Only God can judge me, but only God can judge me, but." You hear that a lot. Only God can judge me. Only God can judge me. That's true. Only God can judge you, but you gotta realize that God uses His soldiers, His workers, to implement and execute his laws in life, So God executes some of his judgment that he has upon people through people. So he uses people sometimes to see a certain way to kind of judge people a little bit through him. Ultimately it comes from God, but he sometimes uses people to judge people in a way. Not necessarily humans, not that humans technically judge everybody completely, but through God, God uses people to judge people in a way. Just realize that only God can judge me, but you got to realize that God does use people, his workers, his soldiers, his prophets to execute his laws in life. If he didn't, there'll be complete chaos. It'll be just if God didn't use his people, certain people to execute certain things in life, then certain things would be allowed. And so God does use certain people or people in general to execute certain laws, to execute certain things in life so that there's a certain way things are done. So just realize that only God can judge me, only God can judge you, but realize that God uses his people, his soldiers, his prophets to execute some of his laws and his ways in life. That's why sometimes people don't understand why there's a why the system is the way it is. Why is the system the way it is? Why is the system the way it is in certain places? Not the unjust systems, but like just certain systems. Why are they the way they are? Because God uses people to execute his laws, his ways, his everything sometimes, and that's the only way. Because we all soldiers of God, we all execute certain things God wants us to do. Everybody that ever existed, and ever will exist, execute certain things that God wants to carry out in life. So we all soldiers of God in our own in certain ways. So all of us do things that God wants us to do and execute in life. So through that, a system is built, and that system just is remains on Earth to this day, and it changes in certain ways, but it always will be in life. There's a system in life that God wants everything to be like, and there's a way and laws and a program that God, not a program, but a system that God likes things to be about. And that's the way he uses his people, his servants, to execute this system. Some people do. If God wouldn't allow certain negative things, well, certain things happen for a reason, but God doesn't allow certain negative things to continue happening over a long period of time, or to keep happening over and over, because He doesn't allow that. God doesn't allow certain negative things to keep happening over and over. Certain things teach us lessons and continuously teach people lessons, because there's no struggle, there's no progress without struggle. But God's system helps everybody. God wants everything to happen. God uses his people, his soldiers, his prophets, his people, his soldiers, to execute a system that he thinks the way things should be implemented on earth. So just realize that only God can judge me, and that is true, but God does use his people to a certain extent to judge people too. And because that's why there's a system of law. That's why people, if they kill someone, they are the laws in most countries try him and send them to jail, because God uses his people, sometimes his people, to judge people through God. Through God, we find out what's right and what's wrong, and he uses his people sometimes to judge people. And that's why if you commit a crime, you go to jail, because he uses his people sometimes to judge people. So just realize that our thoughts, our judgment comes from a higher power, comes from God. He uses us sometimes to implement his plan. You know, so only God can judge me, but just realize that God uses people sometimes to implement his plan, and that does mean that he uses people sometimes to judge people in certain ways, so he can implement his plan and his system in a correct way, in the way he wants it to be on this planet. All right, that's the video for now. Have a great day. Peace.